All right, so this is going to be a video more of how I teach the Repulse monkey move. Okay, so it's kind of going to go along with what I wrote in the first email. So the first thing I would do is show the move. So with Repulse monkey, let's see, it would start over here. So I demonstrate the move. And what I might do is go through it, give a brief description of it, kind of like open up the arms, step back, sink, and let the back hand sweep over the top of the front. And then open up to the other side, step back, sink, hand sweeps over. Open up, stepping back, sink, and over. Open up, stepping back, sink, open up, stepping back, sink, and then closing up. So just something simple like that, not a whole lot of detail. What I might do then is go on to just one part, just the feet. So for this, I would say, let's not even move the arms, so don't worry about the arms, and then go through a pretty thorough description of the feet. So starting with fist under elbow and then drop the arms, let the foot come in. So we're going to let the foot circle in and then circle out again, toe down, heel right behind it. And this is a time when I might mention the idea of the railroad tracks. So imagine like you're stepping on two railroad tracks. One foot, each foot has its own railroad track. So the foot steps down, heel directly behind it because the foot's on the railroad track. Pick up the other foot, you're going to bring it in, sweep it out again, toe down, heel directly behind it. I might also break it down to discuss that it can be difficult to feel when the feet are straight. You might reach back. Let me do this way so you can see it with the camera. You might reach back with the foot and you might think it's straight, but when you put it down and look at it, you realize that instead of being straight, it's off at an angle. So you can bring the foot in, put the toe down, and then kick out the heel. Sink back. Bring the foot in, toe down, and then kick out the heel. Bring the foot in, toe down, kick out the heel. And you can do this stepping in class for as much room as you have. You can bring everybody to one side of your space and just do stepping, have everybody do stepping together back across the space. Okay? So from there, I might see if anybody has any questions, and then from there I might go on and say, okay, let's forget about the feet for now and let's just do the arms. Okay? So feet in the horse stance or centered stance, the foot position that we're in when we're in the Wu Chi position, and from fist under elbow, no feet whatsoever, fist under elbow. We're going to open up to the right, arms open wide. I might go into a lot of detail at this point, or I might add in detail. So I might go through it once. Open up wide, arm comes over the top, hand sweeps over the top of the other one. Opening up, coming over, and sweeping. And then I might start going into detail like this bottom hand, it just releases to open up. As you open up, you're opening up, but you're turning the torso because you always want the arms in front of the torso. When you open up, the hands are palm facing up. And at this point, I usually make a corny joke saying something like, the arms are opening up, like I'm saying, why, oh why did I come to Tai Chi class tonight? Something to lighten up the atmosphere, okay? You don't have to do that. That's just me and my quirky personality. All right, so from fist under elbow, releasing, opening up. body turns, arms are in front of the torso. And then turning back to the front, so the torso's turning back, and the torso turning back is what's bringing this arm over and what's bringing this arm back. So easier to see this way because this is where the camera is, but as I'm turning, I'm not bringing my arm back, but I'm turning and that's bringing the arm back. Open up to the other side, and turning, and it's the turning that's bringing this arm back. I'm not pulling the arm back. So turning, left hand sweeps over the top of the right. And then opening up, turning back to the front. Right hand sweeps over the left. Opening up, and back to the front. Hand sweeps over the top. Opening up, and to the front. You'll notice, even as I'm doing this with you with the camera, I'm using less words as I go through the repetitions. One other detail you might want to focus on at this point is the knees, making sure that people, I was noticing I was doing this a little bit, so making sure that as people are turning, they're not turning with the knees, that they're turning and they're keeping the knees, pointing straight ahead, okay? That's important just because it's important for the health of the knees, all right? So the details to focus on with the arms are keeping the arms in front of the torso, relaxing, releasing the arm, letting it just flow back, palms facing up, arms move with the turning of the torso, not so much that I'm moving separately, and knee structure, okay? Keeping the knees in line with the toes. So after you do a whole bunch of these, you don't have to do the right number, you can do 238 of them if you want, okay? Just keep going back and forth until they get the feel of it. All right, maybe not 238, that might take all class, but as many as you feel like until they get the feel for it. And then you can add in weight shifting. So instead of just doing this with the weight centered, you can start doing this as they're doing it. So do a whole bunch like this, and then say, all right, with this one, we're gonna shift the weight over to the right foot. With this one, we're gonna shift the weight over to the left foot. So the hand that's on top is going to correspond to the hand that we're shifting the weight over to. And we shift the weight over as we're turning back. This is going to start to mimic the stepping. So it'll be easier to include the stepping. All right? So you do that a bunch of times until you feel like people have gotten the hang of it. If you see somebody who's struggling with it, so they're doing something like this, then you can address some of the specifics about that and kind of fine-tune it. You don't have to fine-tune it a whole lot because you're not looking at them getting it perfect this time. You're looking at them getting the broad strokes of it so that over time they can refine it. So now we have the weight shift. So then you can move right in from the weight shift to say, okay, now take your left foot, bring it in, and step back, just like we did before. Now, as you shift the weight onto the left foot, sweep over the top. Open up, right foot, steps out. Shift the weight, hand sweeps over the top. Open up, and sweep over the top. Open up, stepping back, and sink. Okay? So one detail that you can add in there, after you get the physical structure details, so after you get the structure of foot comes in, stepping out, and sink over the top. Okay? After you do this a bunch of times, you can then add in a little bit of an experiential detail. That being that all of this comes from the sink in the turn, the sink into the foot creates the turn, which creates the upper body arm movement. Okay? So stepping back, foot touches down, and then sink into that foot. That creates the turning of the hips, the turning of the waist, which creates the arm movement. Stepping back and sink. Stepping back and sink. Okay? So periodically between each of those phases, or maybe after you've introduced a new phase, so maybe after you've gone from this to shifting the weight, you can pause. Maybe address something about, I don't know, what's a good thing to address with the weight shift? Maybe addressing something like, as the weight shifts, this arm, the weight shift is creating the turning. That would be something that you could address. So instead of weight shift and then turn, get the feel of the weight shift is creating the turning of the torso. You can do little pauses like that to give the students a little bit of a break, to let them absorb what they've learned, and to learn by observing rather than learn by doing. They'll do better if they learn both by observing and by doing, okay? If you try and bundle it all in together at once, they'll get overloaded and it'll take them longer to get it. They'll still get it, it'll just take them longer to get it. So then we basically have a few different phases with this move. We have the footsteps, okay? We have arms with center weight. We have arms with shifting weight, okay? Then we have arms, stepping, and shifting weight, so everything in together. And at this point, they'll have a good sense for the move. You can, once they have the sense for the move, then you can start to get down to nitty-gritty detail about like how many steps they take. So from fist under elbow, we've got 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, 4 steps, and 5 steps. And then we close it up to get ready. And then you can show them what the closing up is. One thing that I feel for closing up is that it's not so much holding a ball as it is as if there's a diagonal beam here and I've got one arm laying on top of the beam, the other hand underneath it, okay? And that'll get us ready for diagonal flying. I forgot what I was going to say, but that's pretty much the move. If you want to slow down the speed of the class, in other words, last week when you did this, they were ready to move on to the next move. You can always, I mentioned this in the email, you can always have you gradually step out of leading them. In other words, at first you're using a lot of words to describe it. Then you use less words to describe it. And then maybe you go silently. And then maybe you have them work on it on their own for a little bit. At each of those points, you can pay more and more attention to what they're doing. And if you notice something that they're doing that isn't right for the move, then you can work on fine-tuning it. You can either work with addressing an individual directly. Other people will listen to what you're doing if you're addressing individually. Or you can say something like, all right, I noticed some of you were doing this. So let's see how it feels if you do it this way, okay? That way you're not kind of jumping on them. You're not saying you need to do it this way, but if you say something like, let's see how this feels, or why don't we try doing it this way, something like that, you'll bring in the new quality of the move. You know, let's say somebody's stepping let's say you see a lot of people stepping and they're stepping straight back. Maybe that's something you didn't address initially. You're never going to get everything all at once. But as you see people stepping straight back instead of out wide, then you can say, all right, I saw a lot of people doing this. Why don't we try getting a wider stance? A wider stance will give us a stronger base, a more stable position as we're stepping, and it will give us the ability to really sink into the move without having to reach for a big step. That's just an example. All right, that's about everything I can think of. If you have any questions while you're teaching it, then just call me over or see if you can get my attention, and I'll come over and help you out with it. All right? That's it.